This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. And just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
What was your favorite Genie Bus moment?
Yeah, I think
that's your headline, right?
I think it's the headline of the day right now in the NBA. Some breaking news that I don't even think we knew was possible, or they were thinking about it. Maybe you did.
I did not.
But we'll just give you the news because I'm sure you have a lot of Bus family reflections from your days covering the association, going all the way back to the original Bus, Jerry. But the Bus family has entered into an agreement. They own the Lakers, fan has learned, to sell majority ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers to someone called Mark Walter at the valuation of $10 billion.
10.
He's the CEO of a diversified holding company, aren't they all? TWG Global has interests in multiple professional sports organizations, including the Dodgers, the LA Sparks, the Billie Jean Cup, Cadillac Formula One team, and Professional Women's Hockey League, which would include our Frost. He's a part of that. The Lakers have been owned by the Bus family since 1979. Jerry Buss purchased the franchise from, do you remember?
Jack Kent Cooke.
Very good. Do you remember the price?
I'm going to say the price was $3.2 million.
A little off.
Oh.
But you were doing well on the quiz. $67.5 million transaction that also included the Kings and the Los Angeles Forum. Jeannie has been running it, been the governor since 2013 when Jerry died in 2013. And Walter has had a stake in the Lakers since 2021 and had right of first refusal to buy it. So apparently they went to sell it. He did not refuse it. And Mark Walter will be your new Lakers owner at a valuation of $10 billion.
So somebody is texting us that Jeannie is still going to run the team. Is that accurate?
I believe I did see that. Yes, she will continue to serve in her role as Lakers governor.
Well, talk about having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
How good is that?
But wasn't Cuban supposed to still kind of be in charge of the Mavs?
True.
But he's
Until
not.
He wasn't.
Yeah. So that
Who knows how long it lasts.
That gets a little tricky.
That can get trickier because maybe you don't have control of it, although I don't know what's in writing there. The Buss family run is legendary. There's not any question about that. And the first thing that came to my mind was the story Louis has told us a couple times that somewhere along the way, and next time we have him on or you have him on, you can ask him about what time period this would be. But he's told the story that he's out, I think, playing golf with Buss in California on some
Los
junket.
Angeles Country Club.
That's it.
No, Riviera.
And that he took Louis hostage to run the LA Kings. And that Louis, as I recall, was tempted as hell. How much money might Louis be well, actually, that's a dumb question. He's worth plenty
fine.
as it is. Yeah, he's not hurting.
You mean Louis that just got back from Italy?
Yeah, that's
that
it.
Louis?
That's it. There was a great relationship there, and he gave some serious consideration to going to Los Angeles to run the Kings. I don't think we would have had him on weekly forever if he'd gone and done that job. I think that's unlikely. The run speaks for itself. There's not any question. I mean, if you go back, the TV series kind of lays this out. The Jerry Buss days, there was a decadence about those Lakers, about him and about sort of the scene then a little bit. But there was no arguing, obviously, with the success of the organization. And I feel like Jeannie Buss has been around forever, kind of groomed by her father in a number of roles to eventually, be the person who's going to take over operations, to sort of control the whole thing. And as you said, for Glenn Taylor, it's got to be a tough day. Now, he kind of knew that he gave A-Rod and Lori a great price, so much so that he tried to reverse it. But this is a new standard that will further injure him, I think, mentally about that price. we all know, the Lakers are more valuable property for all the obvious reasons.
Of course. But
$10 billion. Wow.
Celtics were 6. The Suns, I think, were in the $5-6 million range. 1.5 was the price that Glenn Taylor gave to Laurie and A-Rod.
1.5.
Essentially, it's like a 50% discount. Because most people agree the Wolves are worth around 3.
Right.
So, anyway. We want to talk Twins and Lynx when we come back.
Yeah, let's do
Lynx
that.
won, Twins lost.
We'll do a couple quickies there. I'll get to a couple of texts, and we'll prepare for Kessler. My sources say Kessler was in concert mode last night. Were you the one who told me this?
I was your source there.
Yeah, you were the source. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about, obviously, far more serious items, including some developments in the story we were just chatting about with Michael Hurley, the assassination that took place over the weekend. There are some fresh developments today that are also getting people's attention. So lots to get to with Kessie. An expanded part 2 of Top 5 is next.
Fan.
Just in case you missed it, it's the Top 5 Sports Talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
I got one for you.
Yes, sir.
This is actually from yesterday, but we haven't talked about it. Conference commissioners have decided to start over on determining 2026 college football playoff format, sources said. Big Ten and SEC initially wanted 4 automatic qualifiers each, with 2 each to the ACC and Big 12. However, the ACC and Big 12 pushed back. SEC coaches later publicly did not support the 4 automatic qualifier model, instead preferring 5 automatic qualifiers plus 11 at large format for a 16-team playoff, as did the ACC and the Big 12. SEC wants more value given to strength of schedule metrics. The source cautioned even if strength of schedule is supposed to carry more weight, still boils down to their opinions on who they think are the best teams. Deadline for finalizing the 2026 CFP format is December 1. Who's going to? It just sounds like it's dogs and cats living together, complete chaos.
Well, it's mostly mom and dad are fighting, and mom and dad are the Big Ten and the SEC. Because originally they seem to be on the same side.
Yes.
There's a million different tentacles, and the Big Ten wants 4 automatic qualifiers. So, Indiana could get in, for example, right? So, because you're always going to have your Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State Blue Bloods, right?
Correct.
And you want a place for them. SEC just wants it to be 11 SEC teams, 12, and then the other 4 automatic qualifiers. SEC won't commit to playing 9 conference games, which every other power league, including the Big Ten, does. So the Big Ten says, we're not going to give you 11 if you're only going to play 8, because then your strength is... We'll even play you non-conference. Big Ten SEC Challenge. They don't want to do that. So there's a lot of fighting. I saw those tweets today. It's one of those where you got to read everything like 10 times to really understand it.
Yeah.
Even someone who lives in college sports like I do as much, it's very complicated. But until the Big Ten and the SEC, because they're the ones that get to decide it, those two, for 2026. They don't need any approval from the other conferences. They, I think, want to play a little bit nice, because at some point they are going to need some cooperation. But the way it was written, the Big Ten and the SEC straight up get to decide the next format. So they have to figure. So they have to figure it out
agree
amongst themselves
between the 2 conference leaderships.
Exactly.
All right.
So yeah, December, as you mentioned, is the deadline. I know a lot of eyes were on this meeting, and it's definitely a mess, like the Twins. But we'll talk about that in a minute, because the Lynx won last night, but did they lose the war? Then Nafisa Collier missed most of the second half with a back injury, did not return.
I don't like back injuries.
No, backs are tricky. Cheryl Reeve gave no update after the game.
But she did rip Caitlin Clark. Oh, no. I think actually she ripped officiating. That's what she did.
Did she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, somebody texted me, said that she got in on, like a lot of coaches, they now are emboldened because the door got opened by Fever coach gal. What's her name again?
Stephanie White.
Stephanie White, exactly.
Yeah.
So that everybody, it's now become Pitchfork Nation. It's become a feeding frenzy. And I'm not here to say that the officials aren't part of the problem. It certainly was part of the problem in the Connecticut Fever game yesterday.
Yeah, now the Fever won. There were technical fouls all over the place. We talked about that to start the show. The Fever won and the Lynx won, which sets up a July 1st Commissioner's Cup title game.
Showdown here
at Target Center.
Yeah. Sold out.
Well, it will be.
No doubt.
Tickets go on sale, I think, the 24th. Someone was asking me today, well, how come tickets haven't been on sale for this game? It seems it's 2 weeks away. Well, they didn't know who was playing. They didn't know where it was playing. They can't just say, hey, we're selling tickets for this.
No, you could, and then just give refunds. Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah. You could, but...
It's not a playoff situation.
And it's the Lynx, and it's Caitlin Clark. I think they'll find a way to get the tickets sold.
Yeah.
I think the building will be full.
She's come back good. Well, despite the controversy, she's playing really well since coming back from that injury, correct?
Yes. She played great on Saturday.
Yes.
And also, what's also kind of underplayed or not emphasized enough is after... the flagrants last night, and she's getting into it with J.C. Sheldon. I mean, she basically went Luka to Sheldon's Rudy Gobert when she hit the three. I think it was, you like that. She went Kirk Cousins.
Well, and then at the Sun bench, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also said, you can't guard me.
Right.
Sheldon said something like, you can't do that. Clark said, I can do whatever the bleep I want. It was great theater. You
got into what you think, how her approach has changed this year. It's a little bit more bleep you. And I'll connect directly to that. My own opinion about the Clark strategy and how it has changed. I think if this wasn't already apparent, she wants now more than ever. Her revenge is going to be to kill everybody.
Yeah.
To slice their hearts out without any anesthetic. And I think that's her way. Now, she is being more verbal, as you said. And that may also be part of the I'm done playing the game of always giving the right answer and not ruffling any feathers, whatever the case may be. But I think more generally, she's another one of those athletes who files it all away, and she's just going to want to kill anybody that stands in her way.
It's going to be great to watch because there are definitely, Lynx included, some big-time teams that the Fever are now jumping into that class with people they brought in, and obviously Caitlin Clark. It's going to be fun down the stretch.
That's the sweetest revenge, I think, for folks on her level.
For sure. Twins lost again last night.
What?
Another one-run loss. I think it's their third in a row in terms of one-run losses.
Are we under 500 yet or at 500?
We are at 500, 36-36. They've lost 5 in a row. That's a season high. Cincinnati Reds, the culprit last night. A great game from Buck. Hit a dong, saved a dong, does what Buxton does. But not enough as Festa got into a little bit of a meat grinder in the fourth. Bullpen didn't help much. And now they've, like I said, lost 5 in a row. They're back in action tonight in Cincinnati, who improved to 38 and 35. Let me give you the pitching matchup because I know everybody's always looking for that. Nick Lodolo, a lefty for the Reds, and Bailey Ober. Looking to bounce back. I think his last effort was not very good. Looking to bounce back there. First pitch about 40 minutes from now.
I'm trying to find here on the fly very quickly. What was the final last night? 6-5?
6-5, I believe.
6-5 was the final. Let me find the box score in question. Hold on one second. There's that team. I need the other team. We were playing Cincy, correct?
Yep.
Did you see who got the save?
Oh, I did. You see what number it was for him?
Pagan's 17th save of the season. We didn't need him. I'll say again, is this not further proof of the absurdity of trying to judge baseball pitchers, especially relief pitchers? The guy's got a 3.23 ERA. He's been absolutely brilliant, and he was a complete mess for us, wasn't he? At times, a complete and utter just disaster.
He was a circus. I'm trying to see where that puts him. He's right now tied for 6th with saves with Jeff Hoffman for Toronto. Emilio Pagan.
Like I said, we didn't need him.
It's a closer.
All right. Pretty good overview, I think, over 2 segments, right? Anything else you wanted to get to?
Not really.
Okay, that's good. That'll work. Kessler will be joining us in studio when we come back. We might revisit very late in the show the Caitlin Clark story, but there are some developments locally that we need to get to from the A section. I know Kessler will have us covered, I'm hoping, pretty much across the board in that regard. He is coming up next here on the Fan.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler. Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Pat Kessler.
Political Wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's
Pat Kessler.
with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
Clayton from Rochester asks, did Kessie's buzz reach its peak during Country Road or Sweet Baby James? That's from Clayton. Last night, concert at the X.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
You
Yeah.
wanted to be James Taylor, didn't you?
Well, that's a very insightful question because the answer is yes. So I can remember as a kid, out in the fields, all by myself, on the tractor, whatever, baling hay, and I figured if I could save up enough money baling hay, it'd take me a few months, I could buy a guitar. And then I could learn how to play James Taylor songs, and I could get all the
chicks.
girls.
Yeah, there's the key
they
to
would
it.
be lining up.
Yeah. Fawning
It's
in a
just
circle around you.
unbelievable.
A semicircle
I've
around you.
seen fire and I've seen rain. So, yeah.
You've got a nice voice. You could have done it.
So you were there last night
yeah.
at the X.
He was awesome.
James
Just
Taylor,
fantastic.
I believe 76 or 77?
7, I believe.
77
so he's still
years
younger than
old.
I am.
Yeah, well, that's us. Everybody is pretty much. Even I'm younger than you are. At the X, you were offended when I said, well, the X for that kind of concert, is that tough? And you said, what are you talking about?
Well,
here?
what you said is that tough for a folk singer?
Yes.
He's not a folk singer.
He's a
What do you
folks-
think?
well,
What do you
he's
think? Is he out there? If I were a carpenter.
Well, yeah.
And you were, no.
Well, he's not doing rock and roll.
Sure he is.
No, yeah,
He's
that's
doing-
only in your mind.
You never heard Traffic Jam?
Yeah, he's a steaming hunk of
Mexico?
burning fire. Yeah, I mean, all of Mexico.
How's
all
the
of it.
voice?
It's actually pretty good, for his age. I mean, at the timbre. I saw Bob Dylan a few months ago.
You were
and
bitter about that.
I still am.
Yeah.
I didn't understand him. No, his voice was... What?
Nothing. Your honesty is funny.
Yeah, for once. No, James Taylor and his all-star band was just fantastic. Great backup singers. Has a
Yeah,
couple
who are I saw Bream does a great job at these concerts where he not only reviews it the next day, but then he sends out video the night of with like highlights from many of the songs from, basically in this case, pretty close to the stage. And one of the songs, I don't remember which one it was, it looked like several of them, it was just him. And then there were one or two where it felt like there was a choir behind him with of accompaniment. What was that all about?
He had 4 backup singers.
Okay.
One of them.
This was more than 4.
Well, he had 4 backup singers throughout the concert.
Okay.
And then he had an 11-piece orchestra,
Okay.
pretty much.
All right, maybe that was what I was
he
looking
had a prominent jazz pianist, a couple of horns. I mean, it was just really, really quite
Outstanding
good.
ensemble.
Absolutely. And he went through travel songs and stuff I hadn't heard. And here's the thing. You go to a concert and they want to play their new stuff or whatever. That's fine. Great. But all of the stuff he played, some I did not recognize, was really good.
How much storytelling did he do?
A lot. So that was different with him also, where he's telling stories about how the songs came to be, opening up the guitar case. Somebody gave him a guitar and Rio just poured out of it. That kind of stuff. He was all of his musical instruments were confiscated at the Brazilian border when he was there 20 years ago.
Really?
Because the United States had been involved in some coup,
nefarious,
whatever it is.
CIA
he said something that never happens nowadays, he says.
Right.
But he's talking about that. So he talks about all of this, talks about songs he wrote with Carole King. But he said, wait, whoa, no kings. And, he did the bit. They
loved that, yeah.
Oh, people loved that. Yeah,
you commies and socialists love that.
And he did make a comment about the terrible murders and shootings here in Minnesota and wished everybody well. But overall, just a tremendous, I give it an A. And it really was quite really quite a concert, melded together with all the songs old and new. And his son is one of the backup singers, and he has another backup singer from...
His son is, okay.
Yeah, and Now, James Taylor is 6'3", 6'4", just a tall, spindly guy. And his son towers over him. And then it's just pretty amazing. But listening to the storytelling when he was with the Beatles back in the day, all of that was just awesome. So get a chance to see James Taylor again, go do it because he was great. And it took me back to, the farm days where, I was going to be singing James Taylor songs at parties and the women would just sit around me. That was my idea.
Did that ever come to fruition?
Oh my God.
Well, here was the problem. So I get a guitar to try it out. I'm going to learn chords and shit and stuff.
Oh, gee, God, Grandpa. Come on.
What's happened to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to learn all these chords, right?
That's too good.
So I'm going to learn all these chords.
Sure.
And
First time around a mic?
Well, here's the thing. So I'm left-handed.
Oh, is that bad?
Well,
you bought a right-handed guitar.
Zero. Tell me where you can buy
not in the farm where you grew up.
Not back
Schmidt
in the
Music.
day.
Not near there.
Well, Schmidt Music wouldn't even have. You'd have to drive down to the cities.
Couldn't you have learned to play right-handed?
I suppose, but that's what my whole life people have tried to make me do that. Do things right-handed because left-handed is wrong. What you'd have to do is turn it upside down like Paul McCartney, take all the strings off and restring the guitar. So, how badly do I want girls this weekend at a party? That's what it came down to.
Do you believe in AI?
I do. I absolutely do.
AI overview to the question I put, is James Taylor a folk singer?
Really? Okay, I'm on it.
Yes, James Taylor is widely considered a folk singer, specifically a folk rock singer-songwriter.
There you go.
I'll accept that. I don't have a problem with that. But you made it sound like it's folky.
You sound. It sounds.
It's not patronizing. It's not a denigrating term for me.
No, not at all. But you make it sound like it's Dylan in 1961 at the what was the name of the Gaslight? What was the name of his the bar that he went to or the
you know better than me.
Place?
You're the Dylanophile.
Yeah, I mean he's not that kind of guy, and he has evolved early on. He sang a lot of really great songs, but he evolved into so much more.
Well, he did. He used to do a lot of stuff with Carole King, obviously, and there's a live version of "It's Too Late." I want to say it was in a West Coast hangout. I can't remember the name of it.
At the Troubadour.
That's it.
Yeah.
The live version with the two of them of "It's Too Late" is remarkable. A lot of text coming in. Literally, Guitar Center has left-handed guitars.
Well, now.
Not in 1956.
Not in 1959.
You know that?
I mean, come on, people.
Kessler couldn't just flip the guitar upside down like Hendrix?
Well, I think Hendrix, tell me if I'm wrong, and our great listeners will correct me. Did he have to switch the strings, or did he play the strings, just flip it?
The strings played him. That's the way it worked.
Isn't that unbelievable?
James Taylor is a washed-up junkie, writes John in St. Paul.
Oh, come on, John.
What's that all about?
Well, the concert was full last night, so he's doing okay.
Well, and he was a heroin addict, and thank you for supporting his recovery. 50 years of recovery. So come on.
James Taylor uses Olson guitars made in Lino Lakes, Minnesota.
Fantastic.
Maybe they have a lefty
this
one
is the
for
thing.
you.
This is maybe. So he tells a story about this. One of the very first times he came to Minnesota back in the day, and someone had a guitar for him left in his hotel room, and it was Olson, this guy Olson, and he makes these guitars.
Interesting.
And he pulls the guitar out, and all night I did not see him play another guitar.
Right.
And he had many different ones, except the Olson guitar, and dude was in the audience. And he acknowledged him. What was his name? James Olson? Jimmy Olson?
Just as Olson guitars.
Yeah. So he acknowledges the guy and stands up. He says, "Sit down, man. You're way too old. Not good. Not good. Sit down." Stuff like that.
James A. Olson Guitars.
Yeah.
OlsonGuitars.com.
Was he at Woodstock?
James Taylor?
I don't.
Is he old enough to have been at Woodstock? Yeah, he is old enough to have been, but he didn't.
He is, but he didn't.
He didn't talk about it last night?
He did not talk about Woodstock.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, with the twinkle in your eye, you're not a James Taylor guy. James Taylor is your love language, Dan.
No, I like James. I'm not religious about James Taylor like you are, But I like.
Can I just like the guy?
Yeah, absolutely, and I do too.
Being forced into a position of defending the dude.
Well, no, I do too. So
awesome.
it sounds like you're making me defensive if I don't say he's the greatest of all time.
No. I mean, it's really great.
It's got a place.
We've had many a summer night.
What's your favorite James Taylor song?
It changes all the time. It changes all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
From the early days, Carolina on My Mind from the first. He was one of the very first artists to be recorded by Apple, which was then the Beatles' brand new thing where they were going to have their own label, the Apple Records. So changes all the time. Gaardsy Rio's a great one.
Carolina on My Mind. Every day. Sweet Baby James. Mexico. Fire and Rain. Your Smiling Face. How Sweet It Is. Country Road. So when he does Country Road live, that's epic.
But he's got horns and piano.
Shower the People.
Let's be clear about this.
Yes, go ahead.
There's one song,
Handyman,
on a plateau, and all of the others are under it. Fire and Rain. The opening section of Fire and Rain, that's the Just Yesterday Morning, right? They let me know you were gone.
Yeah,
that is correct.
That's one of the great openings to a popular song of all time.
And a song about suicide.
Well, yeah.
So the woman he's writing about in the song had taken her own life. I think they had met in some sort of a mental health facility.
I see.
And so that's something that he has to play every concert. And it is one of the great songs of.
Fortunately, it sounds like he's not one of those exasperated aging rockers. No. Oh God, okay, I got it. I guess we got to play these songs.
You love me.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
It is. Yeah, I hate that. But in all honesty,
you're right. You're right. Though.
What he represents. You familiar with Dave Mason?
Very much so. Yeah,
rock
from Traffic
folky,
and
Traffic
back in the
day.
Yeah,
Mason.
I know what you're going to say. I can't wait to hear.
We actually, Common set us up at, what's the place downtown Minneapolis? It's
Dakota?
still there. Dakota.
Yeah, at Dakota.
We went to see Glenn Mason, Dave Mason. And similarly,
the other 80-year-old that always talks about women, like Pat Kessler. We've got a theme on the show.
Come on, man.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Come on, man.
So no,
I love my wife.
What I was saying was Mason did a great job telling stories as he went. And to me, when you reach a point where, you're in your senior years, right? Probably admitting that you're past, what might be considered the meat of your career, the prime of it, you have two ways to go if you're going to keep performing. One is to almost be annoyed that you're doing it to your audience and just, go through the songs, even occasionally mutter that I guess we got to do this song and let's get it out of the way, that kind of thing. Or you embrace it, you understand your audience, and you give them some of your musical authority with stories and storytelling, right? And that's what Mason did. It sounds like that's what James Taylor did. And to me, that's the best the quote-unquote aging rockers can do is they give you a piece of that because that's rich. And the people you're talking to are interested in those sorts of things.
Well, I'm always interested in how songs come about. And one of the reasons I love the documentaries, for example, about the Beatles that came out a couple of years ago, where you see how they come up with songs, but the stories behind some of these songs are nothing like I ever imagined them to be.
Yeah.
And to listen to them actually say what is behind the songs, to me, is fascinating. And I learned a lot last night, even though I thought I knew everything there was about him, because I could sing every word and the girls were coming. So I don't know. Unbelievable.
Remarkable is what it is.
Yeah, he was very, very good and worth it if you can see James Taylor.
Are you familiar with Spencer Tollickson?
Very much so.
Gaardsy, you familiar with Spencer Tollickson?
I just got a text from him.
He occasionally checks in and texts me from time to time. Some of them I can't read on air. This one I can. His trumpet player was original to the Blues Brothers and original to the Saturday Night Live band. And Tollickson confirms that he, too, was there last night, as you were.
Well, and so he was as tall. Tollickson is as tall as James Taylor's son.
Taylor is 7'2", you said, James Taylor?
James Taylor is 6'4", but his son towered over him.
He did.
Yeah. So thank you, Spencer, for that, because, I'm frantically looking up all the people. He was he's been with him for 30-plus years.
30.
Yeah, the bass player, and played with the Blues Brothers. They've got one young guy who apparently is an up-and-coming jazz horn player. And, everything about it. So, and I'm sure Spencer
did he have any children with Carly Simon? I don't remember. I honestly don't think he did.
Did?
Yeah.
I have to frantically Google all this.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Because I'm only into the music.
Well,
that's all I am.
That's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm just living in the day, living in the moment.
For the art.
For the art of it.
The art of it all. Yeah.
And the campfire.
You don't need the gossip. I understand. All right, we're already behind, so I want to get to a couple developments today that I'm sure you're familiar with. So give me some details regarding, I think the police officials revealing today that Melissa Hortman's home was broken into days after the assassination, correct? Do you have details on that?
This is despicable. Yes, Brooklyn Park police say today that someone broke into the Hortman's home after their remains had been removed from the home. The police had scoured it for evidence. And what we know so far is that someone pried open a plywood. There's plywood over many of the windows. Pried open the window, broke the window, went in, ransacked the house again. And then nobody knows exactly what was taken. Her parents went through the house and said that they had gone through multiple times earlier, removing personal items from the home after the tragedy over the weekend. And the children also say that most of anything that was important had been taken out of it. But first, the despicable, horrible, terrible murders, and then the violation of this. And police are now asking for neighbors if they have cams. How does somebody do this?
I don't know.
You would think this is. Yeah. You would think that this is.
If you have individuals capable of this kind of assassination, then clearly you have people capable.
So that's just one of the developments, and that's a very, very sad one. And I hope that I think people are upping their security on that. The other one is that there is a Democratic state representative acknowledging today that she was one of the
4 stops, right?
Yeah, the 4 stops, and we believe that she may have been the second stop.
Maple Grove.
DFL Representative Kristen Bonner of Maple Grove.
And they were on vacation,
She was
correct?
out of town,
yes.
And so dude was looking around, and we don't know exactly what happened. So that was one of the indications there. Those are the 2 developments today, which are just still hard to get over the shock of what happened on Friday night into Saturday.
Previously, Ann Rest of New Hope had identified herself as the other that was unidentified when the charges were read, correct?
Oh, that is correct.
And she volunteered that information.
So Ann Rest is one of the people who volunteered the information. And there's an ethical question here, if you have access to the list. But I want to say one other point about this. This is the one with Ann Rest, the senator, where the police officer did come, did talk to the person. I'm not going to say confront him, but pulled up alongside him, tried to talk with him, and she drove away, this police officer. That was correct in that particular one. So questions remain about what exactly happened there, and we don't know.
Let's stay with that for a second, because it's delicate, I think. Because I want to get your view as somebody who used to have to report, daily on this kind of stuff in this sort of situation, but now is a little bit removed from it. I think people are hesitant to question, well, wait a minute. I mean, if the person didn't respond, shouldn't that be a red flag? On the other hand, because it's clear that law enforcement being vigilant, being as alert as they did, going to the Hortman home, that and then at the very least getting his vehicle there, they may have prevented other stops from being made, that people are afraid to question any of this. I do think it should be okay to ask questions about the law enforcement response and get more detail regarding the sequence and what dictated the behavior of this individual officer to say, well, this person's ignoring me. I don't know what to make of this. I can see, I guess, to a certain extent, say, well, my mission is to go to the house, so I better go there first. And then as I understand it, when that person or somebody else came back, that vehicle was gone. So what's fair game in terms of asking tough questions when we all appreciate these folks do jobs that we wouldn't even begin to be capable of.
Well, because they are so many heroes, so many hundreds of law enforcement officers this weekend who did everything to nail this down, get this guy, and brings a sense of relief to the community, despite the tremendous grief that everybody's going through. So that's the standard right there. Of course, it's fair to ask questions about this, but it's really important that we understand that we don't know what we don't know. Many other things could have been happening at the time. Absolutely could have been. We don't know if this particular officer was now going to check another location. I do know that some news organizations, including WCCO, have asked for some of the body cam and so far declined.
Interesting. Okay.
We don't know. There's a lot about this stop we don't know. And perhaps some of the stuff has come out, and there's so much material that maybe I've missed it, but don't know for sure if the dude was wearing the mask at that time or not.
Right.
You would think if somebody's wearing one of those masks, I mean, this is not like a Mission Impossible mask with Tom Cruise where you can't tell the difference. That's one of these creepy Halloween masks. So we don't know this stuff. People, when this kind of crisis hits where you've got shootings and murders and we don't know what's happening and everything is coming at you all at once, you just have to parse what is the most important thing for you to do as a police officer at that moment. But I suspect we're going to find out, and I'm hoping that it's satisfactory to everybody involved here.
Let's get a break. Much more to get to. I want to spend a lot of time next segment on stuff you had laid out, which we haven't really covered that much on this show yet. So it's a direction that's really important, and it's the question of how you thread the needle on security moving forward, particularly at the state capitol. And a belief I know on the part of many, I think including you, that there's going to have to be dramatic, significant changes. What those conversations have already been like, how they might play out as well. And we'll get to a couple of other things with Pat Kessler when we return. Pat Kessler, part 2. Let's get to, I have a number of other things I want to try to at least touch on, but let's get to what you're offering regarding the future when it comes to enhanced security. Now, we're all aware this did not happen at the state capitol, but does everything have to be viewed through a different lens? What's the proper reaction that's not an overreaction in a state that obviously, in terms of the state capitol, has prided itself, right, on being one of the few that had no metal detectors? Those days have to be over, correct?
I think they are. I think that's what we're going to see in the next year. What's really interesting to me is that for years, we've all said, we're an open state and we're an open society. And how do you balance personal safety of state lawmakers with the public's right to have access to them? And that's a really important question. In Minnesota, until yesterday, you could go to the legislative, they call them blue books, the legislative manuals, and many, if not all, but many or most of the lawmakers have their home addresses on there.
Home addresses.
Their home addresses, and it's always
again in the
been
name
that
of
way.
openness.
And just because
access.
Here's where I live. If you got a problem, come knock on my door and I'll talk to you. That's the way.
The operative word is talk.
Yes. So that has the way it's always been. In the last 48 hours, the state has moved to remove all of the addresses, the personal addresses of lawmakers. That's minimal. That's what you got to do. So you don't know exactly where they live. And then when many lawmakers live here in the Twin Cities, that they're from far reaches of the state of Minnesota, those addresses are not public. So that's the first thing you do. Now you got to figure out how do you get their addresses off all of the other public databases. Anybody can find anybody nowadays. So that's one small thing. But the big thing to me is that in the Minnesota State Capitol, and I got no problem, people, I want to say this out front, you can carry a gun legally inside the state capitol. And I remember going through all of these debates when the concealed carry and getting a legal permit for guns. And they allow it. You have the legal right, if you are a legal permit holder, to carry a gun inside the Capitol. And I saw it many, many, many times. In fact, a lot of lawmakers I know carry sidearms. And this is something I wonder, is that going to have to change? Carrying weapons inside our public buildings, is that going to have to change? And I think that will probably change. Finally, lots of debate for many years about whether we should have metal detectors at the state capitol and at our public buildings. And I think that is probably something we will see change also. So just like you're going into a courthouse and you throw your keys and your iPhone into a container and put it through, and then you walk through, I think that might be something they're going to have to consider, which is a terrible thing. Some of the most uplifting, fantastic, memorable events of my entire professional life is the thousands and thousands of people cramming the Capitol, rallying for something, one thing or another. And it was really uplifting and energizing. And if you got to go through a metal detector, every single one of them, I don't know. Those are just some of the things that I do believe are going to have to change.
What about, there's already discussion about, and again, this doesn't eliminate this from potentially happening, but perhaps, I don't know, does it discourage it if you implement new laws regarding impersonating a police officer, toughen them up? What are we hearing on that?
I've always felt odd about this one as well. There are a number of legislators over the last few years who have tried to separate security officials and security companies and have them be completely different from police officers. So right now in the state of Minnesota, it is a misdemeanor. So I'm not going to say it's a parking ticket, but it's a misdemeanor, not a horrible offense if you impersonate a police officer. That always struck me as a little bit odd. So that, I think, people will be discussing whether to change that and raise that to a felony, which would include jail time. Should we, and this is a question, make it harder to get body armor, badges? The dude had a police badge that looked authentic. I can't wait to see that. What about tasers and handcuffs? And can you dress up like a police officer? And stuff you can just buy in stores in the Twin Cities or online. Is that something that we should allow, or should we restrict it? And the flashing lights on security, and the flashing lights that you have in the front grille of a car that pulls up behind you. Police are allowed to have one color. They can have the blue and the red, but security companies can't really do that. But when there is a security officer like the guy who showed up at the Hortman's house, and it's yellow and white, and it looks real, 95% of people who see this are going to think, that's a cop, sure. What's going on, officer? Open the door. So those kinds of things are going to have to change, and those are just real bare minimum of security issues that I think Minnesota's going to face. Do
you get much insight on, when the perpetrator is at the Hoffman home, he presents himself as a police officer. What was he claiming, that there was a robbery reported inside the home, or was it a shooting? Whatever it was.
We don't know at the Hoffman home. Yeah.
So at some point, though, after originally it appears believing that this might be an officer, not surprising.
This is the police. Open up. He's saying
one of the Hoffmans, I think John says, "You're not the police."
He opens the door,
right,
and they have the flashlight flashing in their eyes, so they can't really see.
I see.
He lowers the flashlight, and they see, which is the creepy horror movie Halloween mask.
Right.
Hey, you're not a cop, and he's trying to push the door closed.
So presumably what changed was how he saw how this perpetrator appeared. Will you explain to me, if you have evil intent, which obviously this individual did, the worst, why would you wear a mask like that, maybe lending suspicion to the person who's then they may be more or less likely to believe that you are indeed a police officer? Do you know? Have you thought about that?
Well, yeah, and why wear the mask? Because you're going to get away. You know, that seems to me, and that was part of, I believe, something that Joe Thompson was talking about. And by the way, what a great interview on the show.
Yeah, he was good.
I mean, really good. But if you think you're going to get away, you're going to disguise yourself. I believe that's the that's the intent.
Sense. That makes sense.
Otherwise, but then when Hoffman realized that, hey, you're not a cop, he says this is a robbery, trying to push his way in and shooting as he's doing it. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Astonishing.
Yeah, it is.
Now, another question for you. And this is not crucial, but it's part of the story that I'm still trying to get a handle on, that I think has been written and broadcast a couple of times, and it's what the alleged perpetrator did after the fourth stop in ending up at a bus stop, right? It was at North Minneapolis, and
unbelievable.
This concept of he runs into somebody who I think might have had an e-bike, but then he said, "Hey,
can I buy your e-bike?
Not just the e-bike. We'll go to the house, and you got a Buick. Can I buy the Buick?" So what are the odds that any person that you just run into is going to say, "Yeah, okay, you can buy both from me"? Do we know anything more about that witness?
We don't, and I'm really skeptical. I know people are trying to track down who this witness is based on the car that he sold to the perpetrator,
right.
the dude, the killer, the alleged killer. But
Belter.
The whole thing is really odd in that he's on a bus at a bus stop, and he's going to buy this.
It's remarkable to me.
Yeah, it is. And then they go to the house.
Yes.
Which is also freaky.
That's true.
When you think that this guy is a killer and what's going to happen. And then you go to the bank, and that's another question I have.
Yeah,
because you are pulling thousands of dollars.
And we all presume that all that stuff gets frozen as soon as a perpetrator is identified, correct? But had he not been identified by that point?
Yeah, and what we don't know.
We don't know.
What time of the day is this?
Yes,
How much have you ever taken out of an ATM?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just asking.
Right. That's true.
I mean, I've tried to take
there's a lot of questions.
bills. Yeah, still a lot of stuff.
And many of them will, I guess, be answered
in
at
the
some
investigation.
Point. The subject sounds too macabre to talk about, but everything must go on, right? As horrific as this is, and so there's the question of what happens to the Hortman seat. Correct? We have to talk about it because it's part of the story, even though it seems crass to even go down that road at all at this early date. But people have, for all the obvious reasons, because you do have government that has to move forward.
And things are going to start happening here in Washington when President Trump, if he gets the budget through that he wants, there are going to be hundreds of millions of dollars cut from Medicaid here in Minnesota. The budget will no longer be balanced. The legislature is going to have to come back and do it.
Right.
And somehow they're going to have to do this. I want to take a moment here before our time runs out, and it's related to this, because of all the vitriol and all the trolling that's been going on about this. The people in this state, the Republicans and Democrats, the politicians have locked arms and have really, I think, presented a tremendous front of unity and pushing back against all of the bad things that have been happening, including, and I'm linking this now to the Minnesota House, the members of the House who pushed back hard Republicans against members of their own party. When the legislature reconvenes, and it's going to have to do that probably this summer, this is going to go a long way toward putting people, just having some sort of civility where people can actually work together.
If it lasts.
Well, again, what we saw with people trying to pin the blame, and the United States Senator Mike Lee.
How'd you feel about Mike Lee? By the way, confronted.
Despicable.
We didn't get into this.
Despicable.
We got into that part, but we didn't get into yesterday the development that Tina Smith confronted him face to face, correct?
She did. She confronted him face to face, and it was one of these pointing a finger at you, and who do you think you are? Why are you doing this? You're causing irreparable harm to an already horrified and grief-stricken state and family, and they're very close, by the way. Tina Smith and Melissa Hortman. And she was very angry, and then her staff fired off another really harsh letter. And she stayed on it. I mean, I give her credit.
Well, he ultimately, I don't know what he said to her, if she said revealed it, but he did delete the tweets. He did. But I don't think it offered any apology. He's a coward. He's a coward. It's as simple as that.
It's crazy. No, what he said was, one of these apologies, you and I have talked about public apologies for years.
Yes.
It was like, I'm sorry if what I did offended you.
Yeah, right.
Come on, man.
Which isn't an apology.
Come on, man. Yeah. Wake up.
That's what we call apolodazzle, and that doesn't really
But this is where the Minnesota Republicans and the leaders here, including the Speaker of the House on down, all pushed back against Mike Lee. And if you want an interesting look, take a look at his public Twitter, his Senate Twitter, and then his private Twitter. And they're different, man. Jekyll and Hyde. Good on everybody for pushing back, getting that down. But it already had, 15 million views, and that's baked in. And President Trump actually cited
some people
of the
applauding
info in there. Yeah. And some people say, hey,
you're right. You don't like it? Go too bad.
So
there we are.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate the help today. I'm glad you enjoyed the folk singer extraordinaire James.
I'm going to listen all the way
Taylor.
Home. I'm going to listen all the way home.
You should. I don't think there's any.
It was a great band.
And I hear it was a great band. I heard it was a terrific concert.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see he's still performing. I love that. I love that. That we have people out there who say, I'm not done.
And so what I was wondering is, why are all of these old people here the same age as me? That's what I was wondering last night.
Did you see anybody age 25?
Actually, there were a lot of young people.
Really?
There were a lot of young people.
That's encouraging. Okay.
Gaardsy's generation.
Well, Gaardsy's not that young.
Well,
No, I'm not. I would have been middle-aged at that show, but I have FOMO. I love James Taylor. I wish I would have gone.
That's the deal, man.
Thank you.
All right, man.
We'll wrap things up on a very, very busy, eventful program. We'll give you some highlights next.
It's been a great run. What a great life. What a great state.
Show Wrap is presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper Show Wrap.
Really nice variety of guests today. A great hour with Kessler just wrapped up. In addition, our first visit with Michael Hurley in quite some time. He's Minnesota's own, a career CIA officer for about 30 years. He's out of that now, but he's still very much connected with the intelligence community, counterterror. He's come on with us for years and years and years, and we wanted to chat with him for all the obvious reasons regarding what is happening these days between largely Israel and Iran and whether we're going to be dragged into it. Hurley was at 4:30, and then we had a great in-studio visit, kind of off the beaten track. John Millay has been writing, stories, good human interest features on high school sports and participants for the Minnesota State High School League, the MSHSL, for 15 years. He announced his retirement. Gaardsy said, hey, I want to have him on to talk about this. It worked out great. We had a great conversation with him. That was between largely 3:30 and close to 4:30 on some of his remembrances, some of his favorite stories as well. Early, there might have been some ranting regarding the WNBA continuing to be the league, in my view, that just doesn't get it or that kind of wants it both ways. They want to be big, but they also want to still be in their little bubble, so there's an offense taken when reporters, after the nonsense that took place in the Clark game yesterday, wanted to actually ask about the nonsense. Makes no sense to me, but that's sort of where we are, and it's where, sadly, I think that league continues to be. And there might have been some Clark stuff there, too. Tomorrow is Thursday, right? Dr. Dan's Inbox tomorrow. Maybe another guest or two. Andy Luger in studio is scheduled for Friday as well. We got to get Russo late this week, too.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow.
Maybe even tomorrow. Fan on Demand and Dan Patrick all next. We'll talk to you at 3.